How's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan. It's my platform. I do MMA and boxing related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me to grow my platform by simply hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, and maybe getting involved in the conversation below. So as the world of mixed martial arts has been a bit quiet, there's a few big major super fights on the horizon. One of the ones that everyone's looking forward to is obviously between George Masvidal and Nate Diaz. And I suppose, how do you quantify or qualify to be a super fight is one of the questions that everyone probably thinks when I make that statement, because is George Masvidal versus Nate Diaz considered a super fight? Well, maybe in the marketability sense of the words, or maybe in how popular it's going to be, how much traction it's gained. Maybe not necessarily in that it's a world champion versus a world champion, but it is a huge fight. And the reason why I bring that up is because one of the biggest fights in this quarter of the year that I'm looking forward to most is upcoming, not in UFC or even Bellator, over in the One Championship side of things. That's right, One Championship is hosting the very own major super fight in what's going to be basically a stacked weekend of cards from them. They've got obviously the flyweight Grand Prix. Hopefully Demetrius Johnson will wrap that up and win that gold. They've got Angela Lee fighting on that card. Angela Lee's a superstar over in that part of the world, and she's a world championship fighter as well. And there's no fight bigger than the one I'm going to be breaking down for this video, and that's going to be Brandon Vera, the current One Championship heavyweight champion, who rides a 4-fight win streak dating back to 2013 when he left the UFC, as he takes on One Championship's middleweight and light heavyweight champion, Aung La Nsang, for the light heavyweight championship. It's actually kind of crazy when you think about all the dynamics that are coming into the fight, and this is a really, really big one. For Brandon Vera, this is a chance to write his own history. When he debuted in the UFC, he used to talk about one day holding the world championship at heavyweight and light heavyweight. Now, he weren't able to achieve that in the UFC. Obviously, he had a very mediocre or poor run after going 4-0 to start. He went 4-7 and was actually caught on the back of a loss to Ben Rothwell, when Ben Rothwell went on to test positive in that fight for high levels of testosterone, so that should have been overturned anyway. But he's had a very successful run since then. He got picked up over in One Championship. He's had a lot of success over there, done a lot of Filipino movies. He relocated his entire life to the Philippines, and he's done actually pretty damn incredible. And at 41 years of age, this is his last opportunity to realize a dream that he put in place years ago. Yes, it's not in the UFC, but in a lot of ways, the moment for him will be just as sweet. And on a personal level, and as a fan of Brandon Vera, I can appreciate it. He fights one of the most violent and aggressive men in all of mixed martial arts, not UFC, not Bellator, in all of MMA. That's Aung La Nsang, one of the most violent and exciting brawlers that you will meet in the whole of MMA. Has had put on fight after fight, which has been fight night after fight night, which has been crazy. So many great fights, and Aung La Nsang is an absolute animal and is a double champ coming into this fight, and this fight deserves all the attention in the world. I'm going to go through the tailor tape now and break it down. Brandon Vera is 41 years old, which makes him 7 years older than Aung La Nsang. Obviously, that bears witnessing. That is key to note in this fight. But being that he is a heavyweight, he has got a bit more of a shelf life. And actually, yes, this fight's for the light heavyweight title, but I believe it's being fought at 225 because of One Championship's weight cutting policies. So technically, it's a heavyweight fight. Plus, Brandon Vera hasn't looked old or washed up, and actually, fighting only once a year hasn't seemed like it's done too bad for him. So that's actually something worth noting coming into this fight. He fights Aung La Nsang, who at 34 years old has looked in the prime of his life and prime of his career. Could be interesting to watch out for that one at 41. At some point, he will start to slow down. He's actually about to become 42, so bear that in mind. Brandon Vera comes into this fight with a record of 16 wins and 7 losses with 1 no contest. He's been fighting for a long time. He doesn't fight very frequently, but he's been around for a long time. So even though he's had less fights than Aung La Nsang, he's very experienced at the top of the world. He's main eventing the UFC, now he's main eventing in One Championships. He's a superstar. He fights Aung La Nsang, who has a record of 25 wins and 10 losses. Incredibly experienced, a superstar in my mind, superstar for One Championship. He's got 2 world titles and he's defending both. Comes into this fight, obviously trying to get the biggest win of his career over the One Championship heavyweight champion. Should be a great fight. Brandon Vera's true advantages in this fight is going to be in his size, and that he is a true heavyweight. Brandon Vera stands at 6'3". Some people say 6'4". I've got 6'3" from Tapology. You guys let me know. Aung La Nsang, he stands at 6'1". That makes Brandon Vera 2 inches taller. Now, Brandon Vera has a 76-inch reach. I've struggled to find Aung La Nsang's reach, but stuff that I've seen has suggested between 71 and 73. I think having seen him, having watched him fight, from what I know about boxing, I would venture he's got about a 73-inch reach. Now, that will give Brandon Vera approximately about a 3-inch reach advantage over him. That should be key to note as well. Obviously, Brandon Vera is the bigger man. I reckon Brandon Vera will inflate quite a bit after this fight. Aung La Nsang obviously fights at what's the equivalent of middleweight, without cutting weight. So he is the much smaller man. They both, Brandon Vera is obviously a striker. I would say Brandon Vera's got the more technical Muay Thai of the two. Brandon Vera is definitely a talented Muay Thai striker, and the way he goes about fighting is based on his Muay Thai background, which I love about him. He's obviously wrestled in high school as well, and he's got that. But where he shines is in his stand-up. That's similar for Aung La Nsang. He's a well-rounded mixed martial artist, but he loves to get into brawls. He can rock people, can knock people out on the feet. He carries power. They're both strikers. This will be fought on the feet. Let's talk about some of the key wins. For Brandon Vera, he got all the way back to his early days in the UFC, and you can talk about guys like Mike Whitehead, Frank Mir, Krzysztof Solzinski, and more recently in one championship, he picked up a big win over a guy called Mauro Cirilli, who's a former Cage Warriors world champion, and is a guy who I respect tremendously at heavyweight. It's a good win. And for Aung La Nsang, it's going to be guys that maybe the more casual MMA fans won't be familiar with, but these are good fighters. That's Fight Ali Big Dash, Ken Hasegawa, he's a good fighter. He's done a lot of great stuff, and obviously, like I've mentioned multiple times now, he's got 2 world titles to his name. Issues coming into this fight for Brandon Vera is going to be his age. He is obviously at 41 years old, calling 42 for this fight, and that's going to be something worth noting. I think he will be 42 by the day of the fight, so actually, yeah, that's 8 years older than Aung La Nsang. Brandon Vera has historically choked in the big fights from what I've seen. Obviously, when he lost to Tim Sylvia back in the days through to his main event with Shogun Rua, where the winner who won the most impressive way was going to get a title shot. Obviously, that's back when Shogun was on top of the world and when Tim Sylvia was on top of the world, so use that in context. Don't talk about it in today's goggles, but once upon a time, those were massive fights and he choked in those fights. So where does that put him into this fight? For Aung La Nsang, I feel like he's too willing to engage in a brawl, and against a dangerous knockout artist like Brandon Vera, and that's what he is. He's a knockout artist. He can find himself in a lot of trouble. The X factor for Brandon Vera is going to be his size. He's a true heavyweight. He hits hard. He's probably going to knock out Aung La Nsang if Aung La Nsang keeps on letting him get hit. For Aung La Nsang, he's going to be his relative youth. I mean, at 34, what is youth? But in MMA, especially considering he's looked the sharpest, being 8 years younger than Brandon Vera in the day of this fight, he's going to be much more, or he's going to have youth on his side. He's going to be much fresher coming into this fight, and he's been active. Brandon Vera's been inactive in a lot of ways. I think that's going to help Brandon Vera, but being active is obviously a positive thing for Aung La Nsang. Let's get into the prediction now. See, this is a great fight, and it's a great fight because I feel like it's going to be a war of attrition. In a war of attrition, however, what tends to happen is the more technical guy tends to edge out the war of attrition. Also, when you consider that the more technical guy is the bigger guy here, I think we've got a recipe for some history here. I feel like Brandon Vera is going to be able to use his size and technical striking to keep his distance, pick apart Aung La Nsang, and be able to ride that out to a victory. Aung La Nsang will have his moments and may even hurt Brandon Vera, but he's not the type of fighter that has historically given Brandon Vera trouble. Now, let me be clear, Aung La Nsang has every opportunity to win this, especially being on the fight. He can tag Brandon Vera. Brandon Vera may pay for getting too eager or getting too optimistic with opportunities he creates for himself, but I still feel like he's going to be able to do enough to be able to ride out to a victory. So fight fans, for my official prediction, I'm going with Brandon Vera to get the unanimous decision and claim the light heavyweight championship, hold a belt on this shoulder, and get some history. Brandon Vera will be a champ after this fight, and he definitely deserves some respect for all his later career accomplishments, which has absolutely been amazing. So fight fans, let me know what your predictions are. Comment below with your predictions, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm Rohan, and this is